Thank you. Thank you. All right. So yes, there's a little bit of FOMO here. Joe is with the big guy, Ron the Grand, over in Tampa, but I was really lucky to be able to have Mike and Jay and Abby today. And Mike and Jay, guys, if you don't know them, you're going to want to be following them on social. They're so busy and doing so many incredible things that they don't really have a lot of time to be able to showcase all of the amazing things they're doing. So I am making them come on today and share some of the things that they've been up to. It's a lot. So without taking too much of their thunder, I have to say that out of all the students that Joe and I have mentored, there's a handful that really took this business and crushed it. And these two are a walking, talking example of that. And I couldn't be more proud. And I know Joe is too. So Mike and Jay, let's hear where we're at today. You guys met us, I think it was what, spring of 2021?
Yeah, it was like the reason I remember this is because it was right around when I was still working in accounting and it was busy season. So I think it was like April or end of March we met. And at that point, I think we've only done like 4 deals at that point. And we were still working full time. Fast forward almost a little less than 1 year later, we've come actively, or we've I'm trying to think of the word.
Closed.
We've closed successfully. That's the word.
Yeah.
25 deals. Since then, did 250,000 in assignments right at the end of 2022. And we are up to, since the last time we talked, we're now up to 7 doors. We're closing on number 7 tomorrow. So, and I think back then we had like 3. So it's been a hell of a year. It's going crazy. So in terms of the biggest things, I don't know, Jay, you want to touch on that since the last time we talked?
With
Just our business.
a lot of learning lessons, I'd say, a lot of systems and processes that we instilled, just, finding people, growing our team. It's just been a crazy ride, I'll say that.
Yeah, we started off with, when we talked last, or when we first started with you guys, we had one that was back in 2020. We had like 1 rental property, didn't know what we were doing. And that was about 2 years ago now. And from there, we've hired and fired 7 to 8 different people.
Mm-hmm.
We've learned how to lead. We've really kind of like niched down on exactly what it is we want to do and how we want to do it. And what that looks like for us really is, after seeing like all the success that we had last year and half of the year we were part-time, we realized that I think we got to step it up a little bit. So biggest thing I would say to take away from everybody and to tell everybody is, if you're getting started, set small goals. When we first started, we had very small goals. We were like, okay, we worked backwards and we figured out, if we ever want to quit our job, how are we going to do that? So we knew that we had to cut our living expenses. So we live in a 2-family house. And that was the purpose of it. We did live with my mom for 8 months, right at the start of working with Jenn and Joe. And we did our very first wholesale deal in my mom's garage. Little bit of Jordan Belfort action there, but but it was definitely humbling to know that we're working towards something to basically get out of where we don't want to be. And since then, this year, we're just setting attainable goals. So every month, what is our goal this month? And then how do we reach that to our quarterly goal? So our goal this month is to do 4 to 5 deals, and next month, 4 to 5 deals. So at the end of the quarter, we have successfully closed almost the same amount that we did last year, and we didn't even realize it. So now we're just going to continue to build on that and really work on building up our team, our processes, which Jay is a massive help, and our VA Ryan. They, both of them, have created SOPs for like every part of our business except my part, because because I don't take the time to sit down and do it, but we'll get there.
You will.
I guess, Jenn, any like questions to direct a little bit, just because I'm like, I feel like I can go on for days here.
You are a mini Joe, yes. And if anybody knows you, you guys can definitely relate with that, but I love it. I wanted to let you just kind of share, and, you're starting to take us like through a quick snapshot, but I definitely want to dial it back because I had the privilege of working with you even before you moved into your mom's and, working from the garage. But, I guess, just to take it back for somebody that hasn't done their first wholesale deal or creative deal yet, or any deal maybe, what was it that got you across that finish line? Because it wasn't a fancy office and it wasn't a bunch of CRMs and tools. What was it that made that first wholesale deal happen? Could you maybe take us back to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was, we were with Jenn, we were working with them for like 4 or 5 months, right? And by month 5, we were starting to get discouraged, and we were like, oh man, like, is this actually going to work? Are we actually going to get anywhere? And we realized that everything takes momentum. And after a while, by like month 5 or 6, that's when momentum from ground zero really starts. And as soon as we started to get traction, it kind of uplifted our spirits. And then we got a deal under contract, not really knowing if it was a great deal or not. We found a buyer, made a small little assignment fee. And really what got us across the table is we knew that we're not living in a garage for nothing, or not living in a garage, but we're not working out of a garage for nothing. We have to make this work. We ended our lease. We're back living with my mom, that I haven't done in like 5 years because I was in college down here in Philly. So going back there, we were like, all right, we have to have a deadline. We got to make this work. What are we going to do next? Made that deal, then made another deal like about a month later. And that one we actually kept. And then from there, it was just a total snowball effect. Starting, that was in November, December, we did one deal. And then ever since January of 2022, there hasn't been a deal, hasn't been a month that has gone by where we haven't at least gotten one contract. And it really was just that momentum and the taste of what it was like to get our first deal. And ever since then, it's kind of like been like an addiction. So, and we know a lot about that. We live in Philly, so.
Yeah. Well, it's a definitely, and that's something we'll touch on too, is being able to step away from the real estate and work on, enjoying personal hobbies and such. But how about you, Jay? Because I know you remind me of myself. Joe's the one who's getting on the phone, he's chatting with the sellers, he's analyzing, he's crunching the deals. But there's this whole backside of the business that a lot of people don't really showcase, probably because it's not really that exciting. But SOP, break that down. Some people might not even know what SOP stands for, and maybe just the importance of it and how that's helping your team as you continue to grow.
Absolutely. So SOP is a standard operating procedure. It really helps everyone stay on track or doing everything consistently. So we have an SOP for when a lead comes in and what you ask and when you ask it. We have an SOP of, okay, you got through those questions. Now what? What do you do with it?
Where does it go in the CRM, right?
Yeah. It even boils down to like, if you're adding a new contact into the CRM, what's that SOP look like? It just allows everyone to do the tasks that you want them to do in the manner that you want them to do. And it's just organized. So there's no questions asked whether it got done correctly or incorrectly, excuse me. So that's why they are important in your business, because if someone comes in and then say they want to become an entrepreneur themselves and they want to do this as well, and then they end up leaving your team, you can fill those shoes much quicker and easily get the person up and running again. So if you don't have them in your business, I encourage them highly. Because it just, like I said, it keeps everyone doing the same thing, consistently.
And we have like a base template that we use, which we can share with everybody. If that would be cool, Jen, we can share like a PDF or something of like Ryan, like our VA, like basically we took a template, she created like a base template. So anybody moving forward can then build it from there, like what each section is for, how to do it.
Purpose, what's the purpose? How do you do it? Any definitions that the person may need to know to be able to do the task, stuff like that.
Yeah, and we'll share it in the group for everybody, so everybody can have it and use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, just because if you don't have a VA or you don't have a team, maybe it's just you watching, like this is something where you yourself could even utilize it. And I think that's the thing too, is sometimes we hear these big teams, right? Like people look at like, oh, you have all these team members, which we actually recently kind of dissolved, and we're doing more in-house team. But at the same time, I can only do so much and Joe can only do so much. So like Jay said, like having this system and process in place where everybody's on the same page is really key. And a great way to start doing that too is having your VA help you. If that's something that you are interested in, I know Jay or myself could definitely chat a little bit about that. The VA has changed our lives, and I think yours too, because there's a lot of tasks that we're doing that you don't need to be doing. And I think that in all parts of the business, that's the first thing to ditch, do, and delegate, right? Like, what are you just doing that's wasting your time? And then what can you delegate out? So starting with those SOPs, those standard operating procedures, because I am definitely guilty of not like being great at writing them all down. And Jay encouraged me to really get on the ball with that. And it did help a lot of, organization and all of that. So the other question I wanted to, we got one actually related here. Alex is asking something. How long it takes to onboard someone to your team? Do you hire in US or remote VAs as well?
So we have 2 people that are US, and then we have one that's a VA from the Philippines. So our transaction coordinator, Chelsea, who's also Jenn and Joe's transaction coordinator, we onboarded her basically by, she already was trained, but our dispositionist, Ashley, we actually trained her. It took probably like 60 days to really get her up and running. And then our VA, we onboarded Ashley back in August. And that's when we were still learning, and we still are learning tremendously on how to like actually lead people and onboard people. But since then, we actually have a software where we test people that we onboard, and they have a 90-day onboarding cycle. So they come on, and if it's for like say a VA for the acquisition side, they have to pass a certain amount of tests, and they have to pass a certain score. And then once they hit a certain score, then they spend a week with me and Jay. And once they pass that stage, then they are allowed to go live and actually talk to sellers. And then every 30 days for 90 days, they have to retake those tests, and we meet with them twice a day. So Monday or 8 a.m. or 7:30, 7:30
a.m. and 4 p.m.
Yeah, and 4 p.m. We just touch with them quick. Sorry, see, days fly by. But in terms of that, it really has gotten us to step away from talking to leads, which has freed up our time to look at other things, to really learn how to onboard more people, which we're slowly looking into doing. And
a little
so I
touch
guess
point.
to answer that question, though, it's probably like a 90-day period.
Yeah, and a little touch point about hiring people that I think we both learned is motivating people to in the business and praise, but also to help them grow within your business. Everyone's different. So someone may like the hey, great job, but another person would like to see that in their compensation, or maybe both. So just understanding that different people are different, and that's okay. And then always keeping up with culture is very important when growing a team.
Yeah, you have to know people. Like Ashley, for example, you could tell her a great job, or you could tell her you did a terrible job, but if you pay her, she's happy. Yeah. Chelsea, you could pay her, but that doesn't really make her happy from what we've noticed. Like,
it's the purpose behind what she does.
Yeah. And then
that girl's just a dog with a bone. She's on a mission. She wants to get that deal closed, but yes.
Yeah, exactly. And then our VA Ryan, she's just the best. She's just low key. Really anything goes. So
and then another thing, do not rush, onboarding people or hiring. Make sure that they do fit with your team and fit with your culture.
Yeah. We interviewed 5 VAs before we even hired one. So that just goes to show, you have to still do your homework on people.
Yep.
And make sure that they drive with you.
And I love that too, because, I think that, sometimes you almost hire too late. So you're in a bind, so you need help. So you hire, because we've been there. And even though, you know, we've tried to make whatever work, it might only take you so far. So if you can, and as you should, like you just said, kind of step back and make sure that you're hiring for all of the right reasons. And that's why now, you know, as we grow down here too, I have to chime in and say, like, that's exactly what, like, they're going through like a step-by-step process, especially if they're going to be in an office, in an actual environment with us. You know, I just don't want just anyone walking in. I want to make sure that they're going to jive with Joe, myself, and the other employees that we've taken on. So I love that you've said that, because again, sometimes we jump in and we kind of have our parachute on, like, okay, here we go. And sometimes that's real estate, right? You just kind of learn by doing. But as you mature in this business, you're like, okay, like, pump the brakes. Is this a good fit? And you really, the culture piece has always been number one for us too. So I think that's why obviously we all get along so well. So you are getting some great questions. Everyone is loving this, having you guys on here. So I have here, how about what the pay? Do you pay the VAs based on a performance, such as percentage of the deals, or how do you pay them?
She's $4 an hour. So regardless, she does a lot of stuff for us. She talks with sellers, and then she also helps us with marketing and stuff like that when, you know, if, like, say, like in an off time of the day. So throughout the day, there's definitely times where leads are more prominent and they're coming in a lot faster. And then there's times throughout the day, maybe really early in the morning or later on in the evening, where maybe it's a little bit slower for people are driving, they're coming home from work, or people are going to work. During those times, she does other things that we need her to do, like the SOPs, or she actually helps Jay with the marketing when she has the free time, or when we're on a slow day or something like that. So yeah, $4 an hour. And right now it's well worth it. Best, almost a few hundred, you know, what is it? Almost $1,000 a month that we ever spent, like $1,200 bucks. So she's awesome.
Yeah. And if you haven't hired someone, I know I was dragging my feet because I wasn't sure how to communicate with them. So I'm curious, how do you, and I know we've got other people in the room that have VAs. So how do you communicate with her? Are there certain apps that you're using? How do you utilize the time difference? Because there are 12 hours difference between us. So, or is she working your daytime or nighttime? Like, kind of explain that flow a little bit.
So she works our daytime, her nighttime. She does do a 12-hour shift with us every day except Tuesdays, just because we've looked at the lead flow, and it, you know, we gave her off the day that the leads are the least. From what we've seen from our KPIs, which is another thing that's really important in your business.
We communicate
with Google Chat.
Yeah.
And then we also just use Zoom. She's constantly on Zoom meetings, and then sometimes we just stay on Zoom all day. And if, like, say we're training with her, I just trained her on something in the morning, I just stay on Zoom for the rest of the day with her and kind of let her do the task. And if she needs me, she'll just talk to me.
Yeah. Camera on, camera off.
Yep.
Can mute it, and then if she unmutes it, she's right there. So it's basically like we're in the same room, but she's in the Philippines. So
I love it. That's so cool. And guys, for $4 an hour, I know it just almost seems like impossible, but to them, this is life-changing money. And like, if I could share like a quick, we have 3 VAs. One's my personal assistant VA who helps me. And she asked to get paid one day early. And I was like, okay, like, I thought it was a little strange. And then the next day she showed a picture of an ultrasound of her. Now she's pregnant with her second baby. So I think she needed that money to be able to go get the special ultrasound. And so, like, you're really making a difference in their lives. Have you had that aha moment with yours yet? Like, where you're just realizing how much of a difference you're making in her life?
she said to us that, so she was working a full-time job with a company that does transcriptions for Netflix and Disney. And she quit that job to come work with us full-time because she needed more hours. And she said, because she's working with us, she has now been able to use some of the funds from the extra hours to put together a course for VAs. So she's working on a course to train other VAs to sell to people for like passive income. So she said, because of the extra hours, she now can do that. So we were like, well, we didn't even know you were doing this, but but it's pretty cool to hear that. That hour $4 is going that far for her. So
yeah. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing. I love those stories. I just feel like sometimes it's more than the money. At times where you're just like, holy cow, like this is how much doctors and professors make over there. And they're, diligently working there overnight to help us during the day. So it's really cool. So thank you. All right. Trace was asking, what types of marketing are you doing? What do you find that works best for you? So back to the marketing question.
Absolutely. So we mirror Jen and Joe. We stole all their stuff. No, I'm only kidding. We actually do the same. Facebook marketing. We do Facebook ads. A lot of work, we obviously try and put the word out there. About 98% of our leads will come from Facebook ads. We spend $100 a day right now. We've turned it up since the new year because our goals have increased. So your marketing, if you don't have any marketing, you don't have a business. So we figured, okay, we want to increase our leads, which means we want to increase our deals. We've got to increase our spend. So we're spending about $100 a day. It's getting us about 70 leads a week. And right now we have 4 deals under contract for the month. So it's working. That's our goal, was 4 deals for the month. And the other thing we do too, referrals. We try and be as active, and we try and tell everybody that we meet. That's a new goal for us this year, what we do. And because of that, the house we're closing on tomorrow was a referral. It's a beautiful house in Jay's hometown. And we're closing on that one, and that was a referral. So referrals, just so everybody knows, we have 100% close rate on any referral leads we've gotten. Mm-hmm. So everybody who's ever gave us a lead, we close on, and they have been creative finance, subject to tomorrow. We're closing on this house, 29 years, 2.5% interest rate. It's 6,000 down, and the house is turnkey. So that was just from, putting out there what we do and just saying, hey guys, if you ever hear and everybody ever has a house for sale, let us know. So always tell people.
Break that down, Mike. Where did you guys put that? Was that on like a personal Facebook page?
I think it was just, we were putting it everywhere, but it was a friend of yours.
Yeah, so I went to high school with her, but we put it on our business page. We put it on our personal page. We just tell everyone, like if we're at an event or we're with family, we just let them know, hey, if you know anyone that's selling. So you'll constantly see one of us post like, hey, does anyone have a house for sale? We pay for referrals. But yeah, this one came from one of my high school friends. Her dad was in a situation where he needed to sell. And she reached out and said, can you help? And spoke with Mike closed the deal, and we're actually purchasing this one for our rent to own portfolio.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. We're getting some good questions here. So real quick, with the VA, do you ever put her on the phone, or are you simply having her run the script through messaging?
Oh, everything is through messaging. So her job is the information gatherer. So she runs the script. We do all of our scripts through text because it's much quicker, actually. You don't get a lot of the back and forth. They're telling you their whole life story. They don't want to text all that out. So that's why we do texting. Actually, Ryan doesn't even have an accent. You wouldn't know. She has a master's in English, and literature. So you wouldn't know that she's from the Philippines if you talk to her, but that's just not part of our process. We may eventually turn her, if she gets to that point, because she expressed to us that she wants to advance at one point or another, and she wants to work towards that. So we told her, like, we're open to it, and she may get to the qualifier stage, which is basically where she helps me analyze a deal before it gets to my plate and I try and close it. So if that's the case, she may start hopping on the phone, but that's sometimes down the road. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I know that there's been some back and forth of, don't text people or don't message and get right on the phone call. But I guess it's, to each their own. We found massive success with messaging. So that's why we encourage other people to do that as well. And a lot of times people don't want to talk on the phone, or they can't hop on the phone. So don't discount just shooting a message back and forth. Do you remember how much you started with when you were running ads on Facebook, as far as like ad spend per day?
Oh man,
when
Like,
we first started?
what, like, we, so for up until up until April or May of 2022, we did all free stuff. We never spent a dime. And then up until then May hit and we realized, all right, it's not that, you can't have consistency like forever with organic leads. So we decided to put, I think it was like $15 a day.
Yeah,
I
it was
think.
15.
I think that's what it was too. Yeah, I think that's what we started at once upon a time. So yeah, and no stupid questions here. So let them rip, guys. When you are Facebook marketing with paid ads, can you kind of break down how you target and where you're currently kind of looking for deals?
Yeah, you want to break it down?
We don't really use like targeted words. We kind of do statewide in Pennsylvania. Yeah, and you can talk more about that because you're the master behind that.
Yeah, so right now we have it wide open in PA. So there's no filters, there's nothing. It's just one big pin on the state. But then we want to move out of the city of Philly, probably within the next year. So we dropped a pin about a 50-mile radius around an area right outside of Philly. And we also want to invest over here as well. So that is like a second campaign we're running.
Yep.
But again, no keywords. The more you niche it down, the more expensive your leads will be. So right now it's like $7 per lead, our cost. And then for the statewide, but for the actual 50-mile radius that we dropped around like the Philly area, I think our cost per lead is like closer to 20. So it definitely gets more expensive as you get more concentrated, but you obviously get what you're looking for. So just something to think about if you ever decide to do Facebook ads. And the lady that we use, her name is Jenny. Jenn and Joe referred her to us. She handles all that for us and she gives us all great insight, which Jenn and Joe basically told us what to do from the start. And then we just relayed it to Jenny and we were like, all right, this is what we want. Please, please set it up. So
I was looking for the link. I'm sure someone's going to ask, so I'll find it for you guys and post it. But yeah, Jenny is amazing. It's something that you have to do a couple of things though, in order for Facebook to work. And I would hate for people to just go run and spend a bunch of money on paid ads if you're not familiar with the platform, because not pointing any fingers here, but somebody didn't even have a Facebook account when she first started with us. And so, if you could just back it up. I know like module 2, we're getting into next week with our coaching folks. So some of you are in here are in that coaching. So I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but just touch on a couple of things that people could be doing to perhaps, be better on Facebook. Or there's some of like Jay's top couple tips here that you would give. I saw you guys doing one the other day.
So I did not have a Facebook when I started with Jenn and Joe, and that was a big no-no. So I got my Facebook up and running, obviously being active on there, making sure like your algorithm is, Facebook gauges your algorithm based on your activity. So we do what's called algorithm boosters. And that is basically posts that get people's opinions, and we answer back so that we can keep those conversations going, and Facebook then feeds into our algorithm, which then feeds into our business page, and then our ads are seen more. So just a little bit there.
yeah.
I think what's the one that we just did, the algorithm booster, our famous one?
Oh, is it gravy or is it sauce? That thing, I'm telling you, it blows up. Anything with food, people love it.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for an algorithm booster, post something about your favorite food, your 2 favorite food types, and say, would you rather eat this or would you rather eat that? And it works every time.
He's got this big old pot of sauce on his stove, and he asks if it's gravy or is it sauce. And, obviously being from Jersey, Philly, playing into that. And I think that that's just awesome. People are getting to know you, having some fun, and like letting people just kind of in a little bit. And that's what I always say is like, let people in as comfortable as you are. I know I saw him lurking around behind you too, but do you want to quickly share the name behind your business too?
Yeah. Hey.
So a lot of people get confused and say Mike is Roman, but this is Roman. And we named our business after Roman because we adopted him and found him roaming the streets of Philadelphia.
Yeah,
So,
actually right down the street from where we live now, my man was like 6 months old. So we snagged him up, and then we were driving around one day, and and we said, yeah, get down, buddy, come on. And we said, what are, I don't know what
we
it,
were driving for dollars,
yeah,
but he had said, "Oh, we're roaming for homes," and I was like, "Wait, hold on," and he doesn't say roaming, he says roaming for homes. So that's his Jersey accent, and I said, "That's perfect, that's the name."
Yeah.
so
And so people are calling, they're looking for Roman to do the deals with, or what?
they call me Roman every time.
All the time.
I get on the phone. What's up, Roman? Hi, this is Mike. Oh, hey, Mike, who's Roman? That's my dog.
Little icebreaker though, I love it. And it
Exactly.
works for you guys, so I had to bring him on camera there. All right, Alex is asking numbers here. So how do you know your average, how many leads it takes to get to a deal?
About 50 hot leads. There's a difference between cold leads and hot or warm leads and cold leads. Warm lead is somebody that comes to you. A cold lead is you going outbound to get that. So I don't know how many cold leads. We don't do any cold calling, cold reach. We do all inbound leads, and it's about 50 right now. So I would say it's give or take, like probably between 40 to 60. Just to be a little like broad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it depends market wide, your experience too, because if you're a newer investor, you're not going to know all of the plays, right? We call it the playbook. So if you get a couple of deals across your desk that you just doesn't make sense to you, you might pass on it. Whereas if you've had enough education and experience, you might be able to see something there. I know this might be a little higher level, but can you share a little bit about the novation agreement? Because I saw that that was your first one you guys just did. And I would love to just showcase that, kind of give us the deal breakdown and what even is a novation.
Absolutely. So upfront, a novation is basically instead of it. So a novation, you use it when it doesn't work for a cash deal and the seller can't do creative, but the house has to be turnkey or very close to it. And there has to be enough of spread in there where you can still make some money. So what do you do with a novation? Basically, what you do is you get a house under contract. It doesn't have to be at the 70% rule or the 75% rule. It can be a shorter spread. And what you do is you get a power of attorney with the seller and you get it under contract. And then you actually just turn around while you're under contract and you list it on the market with a realtor and you look for a retail buyer.
But you get the power of attorney to be able to put it on the market. If you do not have a power of attorney, you don't have the ability to put it on the market without the seller's consent. So the power of attorney is basically giving you consent to do that.
Yep, exactly. And when you put it on the market, now you're reaching a different group of people where we had this deal. We got it for $60,000. I think the ARV was about 125 and it was turnkey. But for some reason, an investor didn't want it because the rents weren't high enough. And we knew we had a good spread and the house was great. It was beautiful. It was perfect. And we were like, there's got to be a better way. And then I was talking with Joe one day and all of a sudden Joe was like, oh, there's novations. This is what you do. This is how you do it. So we were like, okay, let's talk with our attorney, see if there's any paperwork we need. Joe explained how to use the paperwork. And then we used the paperwork. We told we're in the area because we had a rent to own near the house. So we decided to swing by and see the seller because we were only like 10 minutes away. And we talked with her and we explained to her in person that, hey, look, like we know that this house means a lot to you. Instead of us, buying it ourselves, which we were just going to wholesale it, and we're finding a partner, we're going to try and find a family to put in here. We're going to use our concierge service. And what we're going to do is we just need you to sign some additional paperwork. And then we're going to use one of our realtor buddies that we know in the area real well and put it on the market and let a family enjoy this place. And she loved it. And of course we had Roman there to schmooze her over because she's a dog lover. And she was giving them milk bones and kissing them and all kinds of stuff. And it went over well. So we put it on the market. Another thing with novations that you want to know is the area has to make sense. So this spread was huge. We had it at 50% off, and we thought it was going to fly off the shelf. But because the area was a little bit more rural and maybe not close to Philly or as close to Pittsburgh as we would have wanted, what happened is that it sat on the market a little bit longer, and we didn't get the price we originally wanted, but we learned all that through it, and we still made 10 grand. So our original goal was to make 30, and we had so much spread in there that we still made 10. But remember, if you are going to do a novation, one thing that we always tell you is turnkey. Don't really put much work into it. There's people out there who will do a novation and completely flip the house while it's under contract. I wouldn't suggest that. I would say to, find something that's turnkey. And then 2, also make sure it's a really good area. Because if it's a good area, good school district, it's going to fly off the shelf with a family. So a couple things just want to touch upon there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really important. So why didn't she just sell and list the house herself? What was it about the novation that worked better, do you think?
Absolutely. So it was her parents' house. She tried to sell it for sale by owner for about a year. She told us she didn't want to list it on the market because she didn't have the time to deal with it. She works full time, and her parents are now in a nursing home with dementia, and she basically is either with them or at work. So she didn't have time to deal with the house. And then she had a wholesaler who was supposedly really big in the area come and try and sell it, had it under contract for 8 months, couldn't do anything with it. So she originally had it for sale by owner, which is how we found the lead, which was through Zillow. And she also reached out to us as well, but I originally reached out to her through for sale by owner. And she had it listed for 98. Over the course of 4 months, I walked her down to 60. And from there, we locked it up, and she loved it because she didn't have to do a thing. She just showed up to closing, got a $60,000 check because the house was free and clear. And now she just texts us every other day asking for a picture of Roman. So, so now, so that's kind of the big picture. Another thing with novation too is we had a guy reach out to us that wants a JV. And I don't know if he's in the room or not. I didn't see him join, but he had brought us a lead in Virginia, and the lead was great for sub 2, but it didn't cash flow, and you couldn't do short-term rental, but there's a spread there. So you're like, knowing from what we just did, novation, and the house is turnkey, you're like, all right, let's spin it to a novation. Let's see what we can do here. So the sellers have a ton of equity. They're young people. They have plenty of time. They just don't want to deal with it. So I spat at the novation kind of script, I guess we can call it. And they bid it, and they love it. They love the idea. So we're going to do a novation in Virginia Beach and basically make some money where if we didn't know what a novation was, it doesn't work for cash. It does work for sub 2, but you can't do anything with it unless you're going to live there. So that lead would have just died if it wasn't for us knowing how to do novation. So just another tool in the tool bag to have.
Awesome. I think I have another important question here coming in. There's a Joe D in the house. Can you unmute? I don't know if Abby can help you.
There we go.
Hey.
What is going on?
What's up, Spiffy?
It's good to see you guys. I
You
just
too,
popped
man.
in for a minute. I am in Tampa at the Marriott. Live Ron the Grand quick start training, packed house. It is like full of people. It is pretty cool. It's interesting. I have a lot of people who are like, I'm huge fans of you and your wife. And they cannot wait to meet her and the kiddos this week. So guys, this is why we love sharing Mike and Jae. If you're listening, is because these people are putting in the time, the work, the money, right, to learn how to do all this stuff. And I mean, a couple years later, it's like, you guys aren't even the same people we met years ago. It's like family now, but it's like impressive to see. And then I'm sitting in a room full of people who kind of weird. I'm one of the oldest dogs as far as the Ron the Grand following, although I am definitely one of the youngest people in the room. But it is pretty cool. There's probably about 70, 80, 100 people in there. A lot of good questions. The Godfather of real estate just sits up on stage, just going, and just drops tons of nuggets of wealth of knowledge. A lot of it's been heard by myself, my wife, a million times, but it's always great to hear it again. And there's some other things he drops here and there, you know, because this business changes constantly. And it's always pretty cool to hear some of the things that they're doing. And don't mistake it, the guy is still doing deals today. And I mean, they've got 2 deals locked up this week where it is literally to the tune of like $75,000 in assignment fees between the 2. One's like a 40, one's like a 30 something. And he was like, yeah, still doing deals, right? So wholesaling, he even says it's a challenge. And even some of their properties that they're wholesaling for cash have been sitting on the market a little bit more. Some of the buyers have dried up. He's like, so if you're going to do the deal, like what you said, Mike, you know, make sure if it's in a good school district, nice property, even if they need a bunch of work, he was like, you know, if you price it right, they will still sell. So just make sure when, you know, any tips that I'm learning today quickly, I'm gonna hop back in here so I don't miss any of these gold nuggets. But if you're gonna lock up a deal, you know, make sure you're figuring out the ARV, make sure you're figuring out the cost of repairs as accurately as you can. And you could always go down, but you can't go back up. So make sure you're locking that number up correctly, because what's happening is all across the nation, wholesalers are either disappearing and going out of business, or they're locking up deals way too high. And then they're running around trying to get this contract sold and they can't sell it because their numbers are off, guys. So, but here's a guy who's probably close to 80 years old, still crushing deals, been doing this before many of you were born. He did his first course in like 1981. So if you were born after that, if you were born after 1981, you know, this guy's been doing it as long as some of us have been alive, which is pretty cool. So just a great resource. I can't wait. I've been taking some great notes. Most of them Ron-isms, like you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit was one of his favorite. And that just kind of boils down to, you know, obviously making sure that you're working with sellers who want to work with you. And the one thing he stated, which was great, and it was great to hear again, is like, if a seller won't tell you what they want for their house, move on. He's like, because I'll tell you what, I don't want to work with somebody who's difficult. And if they can't even name their price, he's like, I don't mess around with them. I just move on to the next one. He's like, you can't get milk out of a dry cow. Move on to the next cow. So big thing he keeps on sharing is get your lead machine up. If you don't have incoming leads, you don't have a business. So make sure you're getting your incoming leads, get those cranked up. And right now is the season, ladies and gentlemen and others, because it is popping. People are having a hard time selling their houses. Don't get me wrong, in some markets, I know inventory is a little low, so houses are still selling pretty decent. In some areas, especially in Florida, they're very saturated with houses. Houses are just sitting there. Our CRM, while I'm in an all-day seminar, is blowing up today. I've literally had calls and text messages. I've got a seller that I reached out to a little over a month and a half ago off Zillow. And I think the house is probably worth in the low 400s. She has it listed at 350. I said my cash offer would be 250 because it needs a new roof from the hurricane, Ian. And she said, no, I can't do that. I said, here's some facts of why I came up with that price. I showed her some listings and things like that. She just texted me. And she said, hey, can you still do that number? And I'm like, so, right. So also too, guys, if your seller doesn't say yes right away, you got to remember that the retail market shifts a little bit behind us investors. Investors were very current to the market trends, things like that. Sellers don't want to get out of the dream of their house is worth gold, right? They want to still think it's worth all of the money. They're having a hard time understanding that. So the market is going to change their attitudes. So this is one of those things. Don't be desperate to make a bad deal. Stick to your number, figure out what your number is, and stick to that. And then just be amazing at follow up. And if you could just kill it in the follow up right now, the deals will start coming back to you. Leave off on a great note, not a good note, but a great note. Like, hey guys, I love you. I love the house. I'd love to make a deal. Just our numbers are too far away. I'll keep in touch, and please do on your end too, because I definitely want to buy your house. Smiles, right? And if you leave off on that good note, you leave a great impression with them, because phone etiquette is so important, and it's, you know, handling this properly. And if you leave off on a good message, you'll get the text messages. And I just got one in training while having our CRM with all these people saying yes to sub 2. So I've got 2 closing calls I'm trying to sneak out and make right now, because I've got a deal in Chipley, Florida, lakefront property. Seems like that should be a perfect sub 2 deal. And then I got a guy in Georgia. He's owes 165. He wants 170. I said, would you take terms? And he says, yes. I don't see why he wouldn't, right? He owes 165 and wants 170, turnkey house. So I'm going to hop on a call with him and his wife later on tonight and try to lock up that deal. So guys, don't be in a hurry to make a deal. Great deals are coming. Just stick to your numbers, be patient, and don't be in a rush to make a shitty deal. You don't need to. There's a lot of those out there. So just make sure if you're going to do a deal, it's a great deal. Ron keeps on talking about, I want to buy cash flowing assets without using a bank, without using my credit, and with little money down deal as possible. So what is he trying to do? He's trying to, still at his age, accumulate cash flowing assets. So that's my lesson for all of you guys. Great seeing you, handsome too, good looking too. And obviously my wife, beautiful as usual.
Oh,
And,
you're still on the show with your suit.
hey,
People are
listen,
loving the look.
when you're hanging out with Ron, you gotta look good. What lists are we pulling? So I will give you one of the hottest lists to pull, guys. Like if you want to make sub 2 deals more than you could handle, I have a realtor script. We just have to finish it. But we have a couple of new people in our office, and they are literally watching me right now as if I'm making invented fire, because they listen to how I'm handling these realtors. And it's really simple. If you walk them down your path, it's been great. I could literally lock up 2 in New York right now. There's a handful of these 2 I'm just ironing out some of the details on. But my list on PropStream, I pull up PropStream. You can pull whatever you want. I'm looking for somebody who's bought a house, depending on where. If I'm in Florida where the market went really, really fast, appreciation, then I'm looking to go back as far as 2 years maximum of ownership. If I go into places like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Midwest, I'll go back maximum of 3 years of ownership. So somebody who's just bought the house in the last 3 years, that currently have them on the market for sale. So I hope you're writing this down or listening. So houses that are owned for 3 years or less, currently listed on the market for sale, owned by an individual, not a corporation or an LLC. And I exclude all cash or free and clear properties. So what I do is I look at people who've got mortgages who just bought a house in the last 3 years. I call up that realtor and I just simply ask them the questions, or I'll even message them first and say, hi, my name is Joe, my wife is Jen. We're looking at buying a few rentals and we came across one of your listings on Zillow. Is 125 Apple Street still available, or did you sell it yet? That's verbatim, guys. Send that message. Maybe change your name from, Joe and Jen to your name. And if you have a spouse, change that. If you want to use mine, fine. Give them my number too, so then they can message me back when they want to sell us the house. But either way, what they do is they'll say, yes, it is. Then I say either I'll message or I'll get on a phone call and I'll just say, hey, I'm just collecting some information. I'm going to get this back to my wife. Does it house need any work? From the pictures, I don't see any. How old is the roof? I always ask them that question. Then I always bring it up the same way. I got to ask, my wife had the question. I see they just bought the house 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, whatever the time frame is. And say, I saw that your seller just bought this house 13 months ago and now they're selling it. Is this house haunted or are there crazy neighbors next door? The realtor laughs every time because I always chuckle when I say it on purpose. And they say, no. They give you the reason. That wasn't me. They give you the reason for why the property is for sale. The seller's moving in with family is the one I got in New York. The guy bought the house a year ago. He's moving in with his son, bought a house that was way too big for him and wants to sell it. I said, well, great. My question to you, Mr. or Mrs. Realtor, is that if I were to submit an offer, do you think your seller would be open to terms? And sometimes I just shut up. Sometimes I say, because when they bought this house a year ago, the interest rates were like 3%. And I know if I go get a loan now, it's going to be more than double that. If I'm going to turn this into a rental, the numbers have to work. And at 3%, the numbers work. At a higher rate, it just doesn't pencil out. And if they say, what does that mean? Terms, that means that I'll pay for the house. I'll buy the house. I'll figure out a commission for you. I'll pay closing costs. I don't say I'm paying your full commission. I said, I'll figure out a commission for you. I'll pay closing costs because I always negotiate down their commission. And then their loan that they have is going to stay in place because I could take advantage of that low interest rate. Guys, that's a 5-minute phone call. You could do 10 of those. Now, I'm going to give you my next step. I hope you guys are listening. This has been so money. I'm dropping some nuggets right now, guys, what's been working. If the realtor says no, that doesn't work for them because they need the proceeds of this house to move into their next house, which happens often. I always say the same thing. Hey, I totally understand. I just did one like this recently, and the guy sold to me for what he owed, basically, because he was almost underwater. There was no equity left in the deal. Do you have any of these currently that you're working on, or something like this that come across your desk recently that would fit this description? I've asked 2 different realtors that yesterday, and I've got 2 of these where they're like, yes, not the house that we originally talked about, but another property that will work for this situation. And I've got one right now in South Carolina that was built in 2021. The lady says, yes, my seller will be open to terms on this house. The house is literally legitly turnkey gorgeous. So I'm getting on a call tomorrow with them at 3:00 and just ironing out the deals, and that should be a deal. So if anybody's looking for a sweet sub 2 deal in South Carolina, like we got a 2021 build, year-old house being done, should be hopefully tomorrow. So stay tuned. But this is what's currently working, guys. So you don't need to pull a list and do mailers. You could pull the list and like legitly just call them. It is so easy right now. So I would say once we agree on the initial terms and the seller says, yes, I will sell to you for what I owe. And because I'm going to pay all the closing costs. Then I say, great, now I got to get with that realtor and I'm going to try to get a 1%, 2% commission, right? So a $300,000 house, will I pay them 2%, pay them $6,000 for the finder's fee for a house that they can't even sell? So they're having a hard time moving? Sure, I'm not paying 6%. I will tell them, beat it. So those are the couple of things I've been working on right now. What I've been doing, what I love doing on PropStream is it shows their mortgage balance opposed to their estimated value. And I look for the skinniest ones, right? So the one that has like a $9,000 difference between their mortgage and what they think is market value, I'm calling those first. Some of these people might have put half down. So, they got a little bit wiggle room, but the ones that have no equity, those are bread and butter right now, guys. So I'm going to head back into my training. I just want to see my wife's smiling face. I want to see Mike and Jay's smiling face. And I want to say hi to all of you too. Share from what I've been learning and let you guys continue to rock on.
Awesome. We'll have fun. And
I couldn't miss a Tuesday. And by the way, Ron is like dying to see you guys and the kids. And they said that Ron might want to interview the kids. So
I'll make sure they're dressed.
Make sure they're on their P's and Q's, them too. They always are, but so yeah. Cool. Well, great seeing y'all. I'll keep you posted. And next week we plan on sharing quite a bit what we learned here, and I'm super excited. So good seeing you all, and we'll see you soon. Love you, honey.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye. Awesome. All right. Well, that's exciting. Hope that revved you up a little bit, and I'll definitely throw this up on YouTube so you can go back and write that script down. We are this close to finalizing the script too. So I'll make sure that gets dropped for all of you. I know that's really important. Yeah, he wanted to talk about what Ron's talking about. He's just using me as an excuse, but yeah, he's fired up. I'm so excited he's there meeting all the people that we've seen through Zoom for so long now. So hopefully you found some value in that, but I definitely want to redirect because I think we still had a few things that Mike and Jay, people wanted to know about. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit. Thanks for going into that novation, but going back to your rent to own, your doors that you're owning. And I think that's always been like a weird subject for me is like, how many doors do you own? Because we do rent to own, we lose doors, but guess what? When I get a nice big check and I help somebody own a home that maybe didn't have that opportunity, my heart's not broken, right? So how many deals are you keeping versus how many are you wholesaling, and kind of just take us down that path inside your business a little bit more before we wrap up today.
Absolutely. So our goal last year was totally different than our goal this year. last year we were just focusing on like, how do we transition to full time and how do we build some money up in our bank accounts, which is wholesaling and, basically just getting some cash. But now we want to work on really building up the amount of properties we keep. So we're looking to keep at a minimum one a month. Or we're looking to buy one a month at a minimum. So we hit our goal for January. We're keeping one. And hopefully by the end of the year, to us, like we never really look at the doors. Like that's kind of like a controversial thing. Like everybody's like, how many doors you got? You could say you got 40. But to us, our biggest thing is we want to keep properties that cash flow us anywhere between $400 to $500 minimum a month. And we want to build up 12 plus of those this year. Whether it's a multifamily with creative financing, all creative financing, or maybe it's a single family, whatever that may look like. And that's basically our goal. Rent to own is our bread and butter from what Jenn and Joe taught us. We had a home, we had a bad tenant and destroyed the house. But great part about rent to own is she gave us $15,000 to move in. She did close to $30,000 in damage, but we had $15,000 of it up front. And then we just secured another tenant buyer after we put money into it. And she's given us a little over 20 down. And her goal is to buy the house from us in cash in the next 12 months. So she is planning on selling her current house. And once she sells that house, she's going to buy us out in cash. And we're going to get 20,000 now and another 70 in about 12 months. And then the one that we're closing on tomorrow, we already have 5 people lined up that have 25,000 plus to give us. And it's costing us 14,000 to close on the house with closing costs. So
You're right, Jen. We love rent to own. It's basically rinse and repeat.
yeah, it's the bird without the bank. So
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is like, because there are so many terrible people out there, but there's any profession, right? And they do it the wrong way that it gets such a bad rap. So that was what took me a while. It's like, I thought, oh, rent to own's a bad thing. But then when I learned from the right people on the ground on how to properly place a person, and, ideally, obviously things happen. We all go through evictions regardless, but now that you have a lot more ideally of a non-refundable option deposit to cover if something happens, it just sets you up better, and you're not getting the phone calls, right? You're not, if somebody's staying in the house, you're not having to go over and fix repairs or any sort of issues like that. Obviously with an eviction is what it is, damages and whatnot. But if the person's in there, how often do you talk to your tenant buyers?
Never. For the ones that we have right now, we don't at all.
Happy holidays, or
Yeah. And
they're making a repair to the house and they just want to get, hey, just letting you know we're doing XYZ. And we're like, okay, cool, thanks.
we got this little house in the middle of Pennsylvania in Altoona. It's an older couple. They pay their rent 7:30 p.m., like give or take 20 minutes on the 1st of every month. It's like clockwork. We don't talk to them. They don't bother us. We never hear anything about them doing anything bad to the house. And then the other one, we just had some bad luck, but this new tenant that's going in there is awesome. We're super excited. And we got a couple great candidates for our next one. We do have rentals as well. We have 2 rentals in Philly. We're just regular tenants. They're also good. We have no complaints there, but eventually once they move out, we are going to probably change them to a rent to own. Because everybody's worried about losing doors, but realistically, people don't actually buy you out that fast. And Jenn and Joe can attest to that too. I remember they were saying they have a property where they have it for like 12 years and no one's ever bought it out. So you don't have to worry about that. And you just continuously buy them, just keep building. And as they flow out the door, you just keep adding more. And now you're just building up that nest egg. So, we actually, just another thing I want to tell everybody, if you guys don't have people who you can technically lend maybe a little bit of money from right now, start to think about that. We are actually buying this house with 0 money out of pocket tomorrow. We have somebody who's lending us money to close on the deal, and probably within 1 month they will have their money back plus 10%. And we will put about $5-6 grand in our pocket. And we just gotta that house will cash flow us about $400 a month. We put $6,000 in our pocket and had no money out of our own pocket. So just this is the first time we're ever doing something like this, but it works great. And that's why rent to own is awesome, because that's how we can guarantee we're going to get them their money back, is by that down payment. Where if we were to do a rehab and then try and refinance, we don't know if we're going to get them their money back. So just remember that, just a strategy to, to implement and take and try. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have our very first house we ever bought in 2008. I think we're on the third tenant buyer, might be like the fifth tenant at this point. And she's talking about possibly buying it out, which I'm kind of like a bittersweet. Right? It was like our first baby, right? But I'm really, she was just texting me like, oh, I'm adding a fence, or I want to do this. And she's sending me photos. So it's really cool relationship too, when they are paying on time and they're excited about the home and they're putting in new flooring in the basement, to see the house really being well taken cared for. And obviously that's really what we all want when we have these cash flowing properties, is to see beautiful homes in beautiful areas. Nobody wants to have that slummy house on this whatever street. So thanks for taking us there. Adam was wondering about sellers. So you shared about how often you talk to tenant buyers, but how about your sellers? I'm thinking these are the sellers that you are maybe paying their mortgage, or if you're seller financing.
So the first seller of the first house, we haven't talked to him since we bought it. Really, there was no need to. The second house that we bought on terms, we just have a really good relationship with her. She texts us every once in a while just to say hello, or she sees our ad, she'll like put a nice comment. She actually refers people to us still to this day. She actually referred her daughter to us, and we're trying to see if we could work out a deal with her. And yeah, and then the new seller is Jay's friend. So we probably will still talk to them, but it really just depends on, your relationship with them, if they want to talk with you, if they don't, and so on. And deals that we've wholesaled, we still talk with some of those sellers too, just because they, we create a really good bond with them. So
it's really case by case basis. I've got some sellers we never speak to, and then something will happen, an address gets changed or whatever. And, next thing you know, seller carols, like, can we have on a call real quick? And, luckily, like we said, we do business with people we want to do business with. And that's why Ron's so adamant on that. If people aren't going to give you the amount they want on the house, like, what are they going to be like when you need something that, something happens down the road? So it's really important to have those really great relationships. So I shared Jenny is her link down there. That's for social media. Book a call with her. Let her know that you saw us and you'd like to hear more. She's such a sweetheart. I know she's a little busy next week, but get on her calendar if you can. And Alex was asking the acquisition cost. I know Joe is really big on the cost of acquisition when you're getting into these deals. It's great when you can get into, little to no money, or like you said, finding someone to kind of help you out. But when you started versus now, has the cost per property changed at all?
No, we try and stick to a kind of like a formula. So we only really buy deals that make us 25% more, or cash on cash return or more. Like we said, the $400 to $500 per, I guess you could say, door, or per property, probably per door. And then in terms of the cost of acquisitions, we won't really buy a property where we have to put more than 5% down, unless we're dealing with like a market, like where we deal with in Pennsylvania, the house is like $80,000. So 10% down, maybe $8,000. And that for us is still very high. The highest that we've ever gone is our deal we're closing on tomorrow. That one is, I gotta see, I think it's $14,000 to close. It was $6,500 in closing costs. So I think it's $8,000 down to the seller. That is the most that we've ever put down, but the house is a $250,000 house. So $14,000 down for $250,000 house isn't bad with closing costs. So in terms of cost of acquisition, our top is typically like 5%. That's where we try and stay. Our first two deals were no money down, just closing costs. This one, we did put a little bit of money down, but they needed it. So we weren't going to let the deal go by.
Yeah, it all comes down to those numbers. So yeah, 0% down is great, but, or 0 down is great, but if you need to put a little something in someone's pocket and
Yeah.
you, rest of the deal makes like home run sense, then do it. So
Exactly.
getting that education. How about the send out statements or proof of payments to sellers when you have a wrap mortgage? Do you have to do anything extra?
We never do. We never actually even offered to do as well. It's just more work. We don't actually, to be honest with you, we don't have a servicing company for our properties. We self-manage. We are looking into possibly using one. But if a seller ever asks us for a proof of payment, like we said, we have great relationships with them. We would just show them. But no one really asks for it. They'll know if their payments aren't getting paid, they'll start getting mail saying that, hey, your bill isn't paid, and none of our sellers have ever gotten that yet. So none of them have.
Aren't you just so cute over there? It's the darn escrow that gets me, the new old ones, the ones that we did like forever ago, and it's like gone up $10 or something. Hey, oh yeah, got it. So it happens, but yeah, that's it's all we need to probably get into the self or out of the self managing as we continue to get more as well. And then a CRM question. You guys are using CRM?
We're using High Level. So same one Jen and Joe use. That's it right there. Marla will hook you up if you reach out to them. She's awesome. So if you do want to talk with them, just, let them know, use that link right there. And then I would say it's not the most intricate CRM, but it's super user friendly and it's really easy to use. And it's great when you are definitely like at that beginner to intermediate phase. If you want like crazy different things where like you can probably set it up. We don't know how to do that yet. It's not as intricate as Podio, but we love it because I don't like intricate things. I like easy, user-friendly stuff that everybody knows how to.
It also integrates directly with Facebook. So if you're
Yeah.
thinking about running those Facebook ads, it talks to Facebook directly. So that was a big plus for us.
Yeah.
I hate Podio, Adam says. Yeah, I feel like CRM, I mean, again, it's a tool, so there's going to be some, possible hiccups here and there, but the definite, with the whole reason we got behind it was the Facebook integration, and it is pretty user friendly. And they are fairly responsive, I would say, but there's so many bells and whistles that go into it, like the chat bots, and then we got Twilio. So, when you start diving down that rabbit hole, hopefully you need it and you have a business that really can support those expenses, because, that was one of, if I can kind of highlight that, as a growing business, it's a little bit of a growing pain when you go from just doing the couple of deals, just you two, to starting to grow your overhead. And you guys saw that pretty quickly, hey, like as we're growing, we need to really, be very mindful of where our expenses are. So it's important to be able to get a hold on that. Any tips that you could share?
Yeah. So it's kind of like controversial on our side of things. Like if you want to keep your costs low, but not grow, you can stay organic. If you have the goal to grow, you have to implement the bells and whistles, but I wouldn't say implement them at day one. Like we didn't implement them for almost a year. I would say get deals under your belt, get some cash flow rolling, get some assignment fees, maybe get a couple of properties. And then once you have some of that money stashed up, then start to implement it. So you have a little nest egg. Right now, basically our break even is $4,000. So we have to, like, say we only do one $10,000 deal that month, $4,000 is to just pay our overhead, and then the rest is ours. So you have to know, if you do start to get these things, you have to see how it adds up, where your break even point is, and keep a very keen eye on that. So that's why we always say, build up your processes first, maybe, and really get your feet wet so you know what you're doing, and then jump into the.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is people tend to think that if they have the bells and whistles, it's just going to work. And that's not the case. You have to have your process first before implementing something new, because that can completely throw you off. to your
Yeah.
process. So you're adding new systems into your process. And that changes your process. So that really changes your KPIs and keeping an eye on that. So when you add a CRM, you're learning how to use the CRM, but you still need a process. So do your old process while you learn the CRM. Because that it could hinder your growth if you don't do it that way.
Yeah, I think that's necessary because again, it's like you want to know more inside. That's why I love having you guys on here. It's like the insider's edition here of like what's going on behind the scenes to grow a business. It's this, right? It's the chaos that you just make work, and it's finding the time. And so I want to kind of end with that. If you could share a little bit, this year, what are your goals? You know, looking back, how hard you've hustled for the last 2 years, because it's been a bit of a grind. You know, can you share some of your personal business goals? You know, what is it that you're hoping to get out of 2023?
You want to go first?
No, you go first.
So personal is to put more time for us. Still something we struggle with all the time. It's very hard when one, you work from home, and two, you also are the owner of your business. You work all the time if you allow yourself to work all the time, right? So people say, you know, the business can own you. That's the truth. So that's something we're going to work on this year, is making sure that at least one day a week we're totally off completely. And then another thing is making sure that by a certain time each day we're done. And then also to make sure that we maybe take like some vacations and do something. And finally get married this year. That's one of our personal goals. So we've been engaged for over a year now. So it's time.
Business wise though,
Yeah.
what would you say your business is?
Business wise is to really solidify our processes and really streamline that. So it's not so we have a lot of processes, but we also still do a lot of things up in the air, and a lot of business I can only do still. Not many people know how to do some of the things that I do on a daily basis. And there's some things that not many people know how to do that Jay does every day. So we're trying to make sure everybody's integrated. So God forbid, if I ever get sick, got to go to the hospital, maybe I'm just out for the count or something, whatever happens, the business can still run, and vice versa. If Jay's out for the count, something happens with the family, whatever, she's unavailable, somebody else can still run it. And then really is to build up our cash flow, make sure that we can at least have somewhere around 6,000 to 7,000 in passive income by the end of the year. And we're reaching for $750,000 in assignment fees this year. So we're going for 750. So we did 250 in 8 months. And I think we could do 750 in 12 months with processes and procedures and a plan. So that's where we're at. That's what our goals are. Big, those are the big goals, but there's obviously minute things.
I love it. Anything you want to add, Jay?
Personal for me is taking, like Mike said, personal time together and then as individuals. But then also for the business, I think I want to dip into hiring W-2s, which is a whole nother animal. Slowly but surely kind of dip the feet into that. And then, yeah, maybe an office, stuff like that. So big things to come, but yeah.
Awesome. And then as far as like how people can get a hold of you, what are you available for? Just kind of leave that, and I'll put some in the notes below on YouTube as well, but just make sure that you share some of the things that you have that you're offering, because, you know, we think so highly of you and we're very careful with who we will send people to, and you two are definitely on that list. So where can people find you, and what can you help them with?
Absolutely. Well, you can find us or you find me. I'm Roman with Mike on Instagram, and my name is Mike Scarpa on Facebook. And
then so I'm Jay Morales on Facebook, and I'm Roman with Jay on Instagram.
And what we offer right now, guys, so Jenn and Joe, they got a nice course and stuff that's going to come for us down the road. But for right now, what we got and what we're working on is we have 1 hour sessions on Zoom where we can either do a coaching call with you guys for a closing call. Jay used to be in the legal field and is like a legal whiz. She helps basically put all of our legal paperwork together. She has drafted trust documents for us for properties we're going to buy, our LLC documents, a bunch of stuff which she can do marketing. And then on the other side, if you ever need help analyzing the deal, breaking it down, wanting to know what you can do with it, we'd love to sit down on that Zoom call and, you know, coach you guys through it. And then what we also offer, Adam is, you know, actually we're doing 2 deals with Adam right now. If you guys have a deal and you don't just want help with closing the deal, you actually want to see how the deal goes from start to finish. Just to give you an example, Adam brought us a lead and said, Mike, this is a hot lead. I want you to help me close it, but I also want you to show me your guys' process and I want you to be a part of it. And let's JV together. So he brought us a sub 2 deal. We did the phone call. I locked it up. He's going to be part of the whole process, show him what the transaction coordinating looks like. We'll help him get a buyer. We're going to assign it. And obviously we all make some money and, you know, we whack it up at the end, have some fun along the way. So if anybody's looking for that, you'll have basically complete inside access to our business, but at the same time, we'll make sure that you guys make some money. So
Awesome.
if that's something you guys are looking for, please reach out. You know, we would love to help anybody, whether it's just a call or you guys want to do some deals.
Yep. And I know you guys are busy, so it is worth every little penny that they are probably charging way too inexpensively for. But I wanted to throw that out there because, you know, these 2 are like family. We all went to a training together and Jay actually watched our kids. So Mike could go to the training with us out in Ohio, and the kids still talk about Mike and Jay and how much fun they were. So if you are ever in Philly, make sure you hit them up, and I am dying to get them down here, hopefully sooner than later, into Florida. But thank you so much for taking your time. I know you guys are so busy. If you enjoyed this, share it with people that might be interested in creative financing, share it on YouTube, all the platforms. And thanks for being here. I know it's a Tuesday afternoon, but we love our little posse here that shows up religiously. And if any questions come on up, throw them in the group. You'll find Mike and Jay there as well. So thank you so much, guys.
Thanks
Thank you
for
for
having
having
us,
us.
guys. It was
All
great
right.
seeing everybody.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too, Jen. See ya.
Bye.